Hello, and thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my partner in crime, my esteemed colleague. Really, the best way to describe this individual is my everything. It's at Aric DiLalla.
Phil, this is a show by the people, for the people.
For the people, yeah.
And I said here I'm a little bit somber at this moment because I've had to do something I'm not proud of.
Sometimes you have to make decisions that, they're tough, but it's for the greater good.
What's right isn't always what's easy.
That's poetic.
Yeah.
Poetic.
And this morning, Phil, I was getting ready to walk over here to the podcast studio. I got out of my sleeping bag under my desk.
Yep.
I took a quick shower. I got ready. It spent an hour and 15 minutes on my hair.
Of course.
And then I was getting ready to come over here, and little Ben Swanson in his flannel shirt, he picked out his best. Getting emotional.
He picked out his best one.
Picked out his best flannel, and he was all ready for the podcast. And he started to follow me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that scene in Old Yeller, where you're like, go on, get. And
so not today, huh?
I said, Ben, you can't do it because the Broncos, they were on a 5-game winning streak when Ben Swanson was not here in studio. He comes back for one episode.
And they lose. I don't think you could just say that's coincidence.
No, it certainly is not. And we got to do our part.
Yeah.
This time of year, Phil, every
the
win,
whole team
it's hard to get.
Yeah.
They're critical. They mean a lot.
We can't slip up by having someone like Swanson back on the show.
No. And so Ben Swanson, he's not missing. He's not in the Panama Canal. He's not in a barrel in Niagara Falls. He's just meters away from us.
Yeah. Well, right off camera here, there's an empty chair here that we've set up in honor of Swanson.
There's a candle burning.
Yeah. It's really sort of in his memory.
Right. But we got to get that dub, Phil.
Yeah. Some things are just a little bit more important, I would say.
Yes.
And the Broncos, they're looking to start a new streak, Aric.
That's right.
There's potential here to start a 5-game winning streak.
Well, and really, you wouldn't want to stop at 5, right?
Well, I'm just talking about the regular season.
Oh, okay. Then you start a new one in the playoffs. The Yoffs, as we call them.
Once you get in the Yoffs, anything could really happen.
0-0.
That's right.
You just get in the dance.
Owned and operated.
Right. It's kind of like they say just get in the dance.
Yeah.
That's how you kind of felt when you snuck into prom your freshman year.
Yeah,
just get in the dance.
I just got in the dance.
Then anything can happen.
Really, the night was young.
Yep. And then first freshman to ever be named prom king.
Yeah, exactly. It was the hair.
It was that good even then.
It was. It's like nature versus nurture, sometimes.
Right. Were you the tallest prom king?
Nature always wins.
Yeah, the hair.
Yeah, the
always
hair
stands out.
Yeah.
Were you the tallest prom king?
Yeah, 1.5 people.
Right.
No, they've never seen that before.
Crown.
Yeah. Yeah, it was sort of like a freak show.
Yeah. I've seen the photo of you and the prom queen and kind of your head's like chopped off.
I'm not in the picture. Yeah, I'm not all in there. Yeah, that's true.
Like up to your shoulders.
Sometimes that happens.
But that you get in the dance, you never know what happens.
You never know what happens.
You could win some jewelry.
You get hot.
Yeah.
You've seen that happen, and you just start winning games.
But before you do that, Phil,
this is a big 5-game stretch here, I think, for the Broncos.
Oh yeah.
The margin for error, it's like razor thin.
Yeah, you can lose one more, but yeah.
Yeah, that's like a razor.
That's a razor.
Yeah, that's a razor. Yeah, you gotta lock in. You gotta get focused.
You're using that thick razor.
Yeah, Mach. They got 8. Mach 1 for this.
Okay.
For this, yeah, Mach 1.
Yeah, it's like a straight. It's like the old.
Yeah, exactly.
The old Italian,
like
dude.
The Godfather.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's what this is like.
It's dangerous sometimes, but that's how you gotta live.
Live on the edge.
Yeah, exactly. So first up is the Chargers. Aric, the Broncos have lost 3 consecutive road games against the Chargers. Have not. They've lost 11 straight on the road in the division. So it's time to buck another trend.
They are 2-20. 2-20 on the road in the division since the Super Bowl.
That's not Sean Payton's record.
No.
He's 0-1.
Yes. But a
tough
road loss to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. And then he avenged that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Phil, we are the Broncos probably need to be 4-2 in the division by the end of this stretch.
Yep.
And I think ultimately you got to go take care of business against a Chargers team that is 4-7. Excuse me, 5-7.
Their record doesn't make it look like they're a good team, but they've lost 5 games by 3 points or fewer.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot of close games.
It is.
They've had a lot of injury issues. Some of their top dogs are out. Bosa, some injury problems there. Yeah. I mean, Mike Williams. Out. These are big-time playmakers, and they're not making big-time plays.
Yeah. And ultimately, I come back to this. Players play.
The players play the game.
And the coaches coach.
And the coaches coach. So we'll talk about this matchup with the Broncos, how they need to lock back in, not let their confidence get shaken at all by
waver.
No wavering.
No.
And certainly no blinking. Can't do it. This is not the time. This is not the time. So we'll talk about that matchup. Before we dive in, Aric, this is, like you mentioned, a show for the people, by the people. It's an interactive podcast. Tell the people how they can get involved.
Yeah, Phil. Well, we actually expect maybe Ben Swanson will try to pursue one of these avenues
to try and get back
on
on
the show.
To have a voice.
You could leave a voicemail at 707 neutral. You dial in, you hear a beep, you leave the message, we play it right here on the air. You could leave an email at neutralzoneshow@gmail.com. You could go on x.com, formerly known as Twitter. Tweet at us at Aric DiLalla with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH, both non-traditional spellings. Or, Phil, you could do our favorite way. Go onto the Broncos official YouTube page. You find the Neutral Zone. You smash that subscribe button. And then you leave a comment, and we'll read it right here on the air.
Right now. This is from last Thursday's show.
Okay.
When the positivity was flowing.
Off the charts.
It was flowing last week. Got to get back to that, Aric. Our friend Sean Mahoney, 33. I love Ben, but the Broncos have been undefeated since he's been gone. He wants to send him on an assignment before the Texans game. Unfortunately, we did not read that comment until just now, or actually before the show, and that's why Ben is not here. We've listened. And we've reacted.
People don't know this.
Took the feedback.
The song "Since You've Been Gone" by Kelly Clarkson, actually about Ben Swanson.
Yes.
She was singing about him not being here.
Yeah, since he's been gone, the Broncos have had one.
They can breathe. They can win for the first time.
For the first time. Yeah, exactly. Add 22 BY8. I don't know. Okay. I don't know what it is. Love the show. Listen to almost every episode. Today, my only complaint was that it took over 14 minutes to get to the actual game. Other than that, I love it. Go Broncos.
Well, that's pretty much how we do things around here. A little tip. I was doing this yesterday. I listened to the podcast back because I was reviewing the tape as we do.
Notes?
Yeah. I listened to it at 2 times speed.
Oh, and did you enjoy that, or was it a little crazy?
It was kind of fun.
Yeah. My wife does that. She listens to a lot of podcasts and she just zips through them.
Not this one.
I don't know if she listens to this one.
My wife does not.
Jeremy Loans replied and said, agreed, there are timestamps in the description so you can skip the mindless banter. If you skip this, you won't know that we talked about you.
Yeah. Huh. Joke's on you.
Yeah, the joke is on them. Cindy H303. My face when Ben popped up. Then there was an emoji.
What type of emoji?
Y'all are wild. It was
Scared?
a crying face.
Oh. Y'all are wild. That's true.
Metambali. Finally, the star of the show is back. Not anymore.
Nope.
Trezor 2K0. You guys crack me up. LMAO, keep the content rolling, amigos.
The content machine, Phil, it's fired up.
It is always rolling.
We're good.
And then John Jornad, he says Crenshaw and Dork. Those are the nicknames assigned last.
Wait, what was the first one?
Sure.
Sorry.
Crenshaw.
I don't get a nickname?
Well, then he goes, we have 2 middle names. Well, what is Eric's?
Oh.
So he says, He goes, though, I'm not sure famous groups like the Three Musketeers or the Three Stooges went by their middle names. Yeah.
Cringe.
So, I don't know.
The dorks your middle.
Yeah.
Your middle name?
I think that's what he's saying here. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think tremendous hair, I think is that my middle name?
I'm not sure. You could be. It could be. If you can earn
Genius.
it.
Brilliant.
Rommel McClaney says, first, it's quite an honor.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm glad that Ben is back. He's the wild card.
Not anymore.
He's going to be sad. People are going to be sad.
We're just doing what we have to do. We're not happy about this.
No.
We're just doing what we have to do.
Dominic Cavazos. Putting Ben on a weak side blitz would be crazy. Ask Vance for real, for real. Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
Did we talk about that?
I don't know. And then Jorge Insanias, maybe? I'm sorry. How do we know that it's not an AI Ben Swanson?
Oh.
How do we know that it's not an AI Ben Swanson?
That's a good question. But you never can be too sure.
That is true.
Could be a deep fake.
Could be deep fake.
Ben Swanson.
Hologram, maybe.
Yeah.
You can do that nowadays, you know? And then the last one, this one is from our friend Barry.
Yep.
He says, I'm pretty sure Samaje means jack in a foreign language because, of course, Samaje lifted up a car.
Oh.
Like a car jack. So he says
he lifted up a car?
He lifted up a car while he was in college.
Huh.
See, this woman was trying to change her tire, as the story goes.
Yeah, I haven't heard this.
And she didn't have a car jack.
Okay.
And so Samaje just picked it up. And they changed the whole tire.
Oh, was this? Maybe I had her. This was Swanson's F-1850.
This was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. No,
Exactly.
That sounds familiar.
You heard this one before,
I think it's been a long time since I heard it, but I think I heard it.
So our friend Barry says that he thinks Samaje stands for jack. I don't know. If Ben was here, he could tell us for sure or not, but
it's okay.
Anyway, we had to do what we had to do.
We'll take the win over the facts.
Exactly. It doesn't really matter. So thank you very much for those comments. Keep them rolling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we enjoy reading those. That's a fun part of the show. It's not mindless banter. But if you don't enjoy the mindless banter, you'll be joining us right about now as we get into our first topic here, really the most important topic, and that is previewing this game against the Chargers, Eric. The Broncos at 6-6, still right in the thick of things here. 5 games left. That's this story is far from written.
Whoa. Well, far from over?
It's far from over, yeah, maybe.
I think some of it's been written.
Well, some of it has been written, but it's like
would you say we're on chapter 14?
Well, I just think that like when you go back and read what happened this season, I think the part that that's
the lead
like
hasn't been.
Yeah, it's not been.
Oh, yeah.
What this season's going to be like all about, it hasn't been written.
What it's remembered by.
But exactly. The meat.
A nice switch from book to meat. That's a good transition.
Yeah, if you think about the meal, maybe we've had like a starter. You know, maybe we've had a little soup, maybe.
A gazpacho?
Yeah. And now we're waiting, and the meat is on its way. It's on its way.
It's like a nice Florentine steak or something?
That's sort of how I think about it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 2 inches thick.
You're at one of those, maybe you're at like a Brazilian steakhouse. You got the you got the card.
It's up. Yeah, please come to the table.
Meat.
More. Yeah. Bring the skewers.
In 5 weeks, you flip it, and then we find out, do we get dessert or not?
Exactly.
And that's what the next chapter will be about.
Exactly. That's
Classic
exactly right.
Book.
Meat book.
Yep.
Those are my favorite kinds of books.
The meat. Yeah. Like this book about meat or no?
Yeah. Let's get it going.
Okay.
Yeah. So, this is a big game. I think the Broncos, everything is still in front of them, but it starts with this Chargers team. And it's a team that the Broncos have had some difficulty with on the road and some success with at home.
Whoa.
Makes you think.
It does.
This one's on the road, though, so they're going to have to get that thing turned around.
They will. Phil, I believe 2 of the last 3 games there have been 19-16 Chargers.
That score?
I think so.
Whoa.
I think that. I'm not saying that for a fact,
you
but
don't
I think
know
that.
For sure.
It definitely was that score last year. Yeah. And I believe that's also what the score was in 2020.
Wow.
Makes you think.
How does it happen?
I don't know. Not scoreagami.
That's a common score.
Phil, listen, I think the Chargers they've still got talent, right?
They're dangerous, but they haven't looked like they haven't lived up to their potential this year. I think I think that's a fair way to say.
But they've got talent with Justin Herbert. It sounds like maybe they're considering making a change at running back. Austin Eckler hasn't had quite the success. Colorado kid hasn't had quite the success that he's had in the past.
He was supposed to be like a top fantasy pick this year.
Yeah, hasn't worked out.
He went like top 3 in a lot of drafts.
Their defense is playing well on third down. I believe Sean Payton said they're one of the top third down defenses in the league.
You're not saying it, but Sean Payton.
Sean Payton's saying it. But despite that, Phil, I go back to what Sean said several weeks ago, that when you're winning, a lot of these teams are nameless, faceless opponents.
Just roll through them.
And I think this game is it's more about the Broncos than it is about the Chargers.
I agree.
And the Broncos have to get back to doing what they do well, which is running the football.
Physical,
dominate time of possession, play action passes down the field, take those deep shots occasionally. Don't turn the ball over, protect the football. And then defensively, don't allow these big chunk plays. I mean, over the course of the winning streak, you didn't see those long chunk plays.
The Nico Collins.
Right, that the Texans had. No receiver during that stretch had 75 yards.
Exactly.
And then Nico Collins had 191, 193.
191. I think it was 191. I think.
As we know, yeah. So,
that's what I think.
They've got to get back to doing what they do well. And a turnover or two would be nice, right? But yeah. I do think the defense played well enough against Houston that if you didn't allow those chunk plays, you didn't really need the turnovers.
Yes.
But there's some stats, Phil, where the Broncos, they forced 2 or more turnovers. I think they've won all but one of those games. I think they're 4-1.
Yeah.
You don't force turnovers, not having nearly as much success. Games where Russell Wilson has not thrown an interception, a lot of success. When he's thrown an interception, they have not won a game yet, I believe.
Yeah.
And so getting back to your formula of being physical, winning the turnover battle, and kind of imposing your will, that's what this is about, not about the Chargers.
Yeah, and I mean, if a lot of what you just said is like, hey, if the Broncos just go play really well, then they're going to win. But I do think that during the streak,
is that what I said?
Well, you're like, if they take the ball away and they don't turn it over and they run the ball and they limit the explosives. But it is what had been working for the Broncos. You're right that when they were on that 5-game streak, they were doing all of those things. And for some reason last week, the script flipped. Russ threw the 3 interceptions. They did not get a takeaway. They just did some abnormal things last week. And I think that sort of speaks to your point about getting back to, it's about what the Broncos are doing. A lot of those mistakes you can just correct on your own side. To me, that starts in practice. The details, the focus. Sean Payton said like that third down play, the communication wasn't great on that play. And, that's the most important play of the game. So, like, things like that, you just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody's dialed in, everybody's locked in. And hopefully, after losing a game, it gives this team a chance to reset and say, look, okay, if we do play to our level and what we're capable of, we can beat anybody. And so it's about us trying to just get focused, get back, and get locked in. And to me, Eric, I think on offense, it's about staying on the field. You cannot go 0 for 11 because when you're not on the field, it creates like so many other problems where you're like, oh, why isn't Jerry Jeudy and Marvin Mims getting the ball more? They just don't have that many offensive snaps. You know what I mean? And you're like, well, why aren't they getting the running game going more? And why, Sean Payton said this a lot, that when you're not good on third down, a lot of your game planning and what you were hoping to achieve, you don't get to like 75% of that. So like you've just got to stay on the field because it creates so much good for your team. It keeps Justin Herbert off the field. It helps your defense. It means that you're moving the ball, which means that you're probably scoring some points. Third down, converting on third down is going to be key to me. And normally when you're like, oh, we were not good on third down, 0 for 11 is like sort of an anomaly. But I will say, normally in those situations, the answer you get back is we got to be better on first and second down. That was not the case last week against the Texans. Those are a lot of third and manageable. They just, when that play hit, we're not able to execute. And that's going to be key against the Chargers. And probably what that means is chipping and sending extra guys over at Khalil Mack.
I like how you were like, oh, yeah, running the ball, turnovers, that's obvious. And then you're like, they should do good on third down.
They got to do the good things on the third down play.
Yeah, like, thanks for the obvious. Let me tell you something not obvious at all.
Like say they're about to do the play, right?
So they do third downs and they score points. That's good, is what you're saying.
Like if you look at say they are getting ready to go to the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
They look over and near the chains there, it says the down.
It's a 3.
If it's a 3 there, they should be like, oh, guys, we got to lock in here.
Yeah.
This is a big one. Let's do this one.
Let's do this one.
Let's do the good play on this one.
What if it says 4?
Then you really got to.
Really lock in.
You really got to lock in.
5?
I think Russ was asked this week. He was like, hey, what happened on third down? He was like, hey, what about fourth down? We were pretty good on fourth down, huh?
They were good on fourth down. Weren't they 3 of 3?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe what they should have done on that last play, throw it away. It's third down, throw it away.
Well, now
now it's fourth down. We're going to lock in now.
That would have been a nice story, though. If they'd caught it, it would have been like, that's the first third down conversion of the game. Boom, wins it.
That's true.
Gosh, I can just.
That would have been really nice.
I can feel myself typing right now.
Yeah.
You know?
You're like, why didn't you do that? That would have been beautiful.
Would have helped me. Yeah. And that comes down to communication, right? The third downs. We've heard that a lot this week of being on the same page, making sure the attention to detail is good. Sean Payton has preached, you've got to be good with the little things. And it sounded like, he described the last game as sloppy.
Yes.
You got to dial in a little bit more and make sure you know your assignment, make sure any sort of shift or motion is being picked up, making sure you know the protection plan, especially if it's being changed at the line of scrimmage. Those things all have to be on point for this team to succeed on third down, especially on the road. And granted,
yes, it will not be a loud atmosphere.
Well, I didn't think based on the number of people that were in Houston, it would be a loud atmosphere, but speakers work, I guess.
Oh.
I'm not
saying that.
I'm not saying the speakers were doing anything. I'm just saying that I think they worked.
They worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
But yeah, what I meant by like the running the ball, physical turnover is not necessarily like, obviously those things help you win, but it's more about you've got to control the game. Whereas some teams
set the tone.
Some teams are built to, like the Chargers in some ways, the Lions.
The Texans.
They can score 30 something points, and that's how they get control of the game, right? They're going to just outscore you.
Yeah.
I think the Broncos are not necessarily built that way at this moment, where we're going to control the game by just being very deliberate. Taking time off the clock, having 5-minute scoring drives, like you said, converting on third down, staying on the field, getting an interception or two, not letting you have these chunk plays that a lot of teams use to kind of fuel their scoring drives. The Broncos, I think, have a formula where they can score 24 points and have a really good chance of winning because of the way they just control the rest of the game.
Yep.
But they've got to get back to that. And so that's more what I mean, as opposed to, like, there are plenty of teams that don't run the ball well, don't control time of possession. That's not their style. They don't force a lot of turnovers, but they still win.
Yes.
The Broncos' style right now is closer to what we're talking about, where it's like you take control of this game and really like impose your will on it.
Yeah, exactly. And like right off the bat in that Texans game, like they took a couple of deep shots early and you're like, oh, this kind of has like a different feel than like these other games, And I think you're right, Eric. Like the way that this team's been having success is some short passes, some screen passes, little flips to Samaje, those types of things that they've created like 15, 20-yard plays on that, pounding the football, letting your offensive line sort of dictate things, keeping the defense off balance a little bit. That's what's been working for this team, not necessarily letting it fly through the air.
Yeah.
So I think that if you can kind of set that tone early on, like, hey, we're here, it's going to be a long day for you guys, get ready, and let Javonte just eat a little bit, Samaje eat, and then maybe you flip it outside a little to Jaleel. It is interesting. When Jaleel's out there, he's getting the ball. That is a sort of interesting thing. I wonder if they're like sort of like building that up to something.
There were a couple, I think, was it against the Vikings where he was out there and then Jerry got the ball?
Oh, and that was a nice play, probably.
And you could see everybody kind of flow toward Jaleel. And Jerry got the ball.
See?
I don't know if it was Minnesota or Cleveland, but one of those, Jerry made a big play because of that. But Phil,
decoy.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the Tyreek.
Oh, sure.
You do the decoy. And then you also do the two huge
touchdowns.
bombs.
Yeah. Also the 2,000 yards.
Yeah, you do that too.
So what interests me is, I think as much as the technical stuff matters in this game, blocking, communication,
heart. You're talking about the heart.
Yeah,
the passion.
I think there's like a kind of this nebulous, hard to quantify thing here where like how tough are the Broncos here?
Yeah.
How are they built for this moment? And I look back on this season, Phil, because we've been hurt a lot over the last 7 years, right?
You got trust issues.
So the Broncos go 1-5. I think we, along with a lot of people, were like, well, there goes your chance at the postseason. And then I think there's moments against Kansas City, for example, when the Broncos won. At the end of the half, you're thinking, there's that strip sack, the fumble.
Oh,
Kansas City gets a field goal. Next drive, the field goal gets blocked.
You don't believe what you're seeing.
And you're just thinking, here we go again.
Yeah.
Against Minnesota, things are not going well. I'm thinking, well, there goes a streak. That was nice.
Yeah.
Buffalo, same. At a lot of moments this year, I think we're still trying to, at least I am, get myself out of that rut of just thinking what will go.
How is this going to go wrong?
Yeah, what can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because for so long,
that's been the case.
It has. I think back to 2018, Vance's last year as head coach. Broncos get back to 6-6, and then Emmanuel Sanders
fall off the bus. Yeah,
tears his Achilles, and Chris Harris breaks his leg, and you lose your last four, and you got no chance.
And that's that.
I think at 2021, Broncos are 7-6. They're in good shape. Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt. Season's over.
Yeah. You got to flip that.
Right now, based on the last 7 years, I still have this sense of
doom.
Dread. Yeah, like, are the Broncos going to go out and respond to a tough road loss by getting right back on track?
Yeah. I'll say to this, I do think that these two teams sort of feel like they're in different spots, like the Chargers and Broncos, where it feels like the Broncos, especially during that streak, have like kind of come together and like formed this sort of toughness and like this grit. And like they were going out there and playing really hard for Sean Payton. And, with the Chargers, it feels like that team had so much expectation, heading into the season. Like they were talking about Super Bowl and like Kellen Moore was going to come in and get that offense over the top. They were going to put up like Cowboys type of numbers. And like, you just felt like, okay, Brandon Staley is this young coach. They like to go for it on fourth and they're an analytical team and they're just going to take that step. And that hasn't materialized this year. And for whatever reason, like Justin Herbert is on pace to have the lowest yards per game passing of his career. He's just like not been maybe himself, I would say.
Probably not on pace to reach 30 touchdowns, which he did his first 2 years.
He was the first player ever to throw for 30 plus in his first 2 years. So he just seems like not quite himself. And teams in that kind of position, they tend to not like go out there and like have like, let's win this one for Coach Staley and like have this like sort of like galvanizing moment. But you did see them do a little bit of that last week against the Patriots where they snapped their skid. It was 6-0, so it was sort of a weird game. But you did see them sort of happy in the locker room afterward, and like maybe that was in their mind like a way to get back on track for them. So I agree with you. What are we going to see? What kind of fight are we going to see from both of these two teams? Because I do think the Broncos, the way you look at it is, hey, we've fought hard to get into this spot. We did not get it done last week, but don't let that shake our confidence. Still a good football team. Still right in the thick of things here with sitting at 6-6. There's a lot of teams in the AFC sort of jumbled into that, in that mud, in that mix right there at the wild card, in that 6, 7, 8 spot. So still, fight for this thing here, like let's make a real push for this home stretch here. What kind of fight are we going to see? What kind of passion are we going to see from both these teams?
Yeah. And listen, I think that while I am kind of conditioned over the last 7 years to expect the worst, this team time and time and again this year has shown that under Sean Payton, it's going to respond differently than it has the last 7 years. It finds a way to beat the Chiefs, finds a way to go on a 5-game winning streak, win a game against Minnesota where you don't play well.
Almost did that last week.
Against Houston, the Broncos
almost did that.
One of their probably poorest performances of the year statistically in a lot of areas. They still have a chance at the end of the game. They're at the 8-yard line, and that's what guys in the locker room said afterwards. Despite how poorly we played, we're standing at the 8-yard line with a chance to win the game. This team again and again has proved people wrong about its ability to respond. And so while you're going into what is essentially a must win, because I don't think at this time of year you can drop 2 in a row. I don't think you can put yourself in a position where you have to win the last 4.
Yeah.
It feels very much like a must win.
Justin Simmons said it's a must win.
Right. And this team again and again this year has shown a toughness and a resilience that this organization has not had in years. And so I'm hopeful that continues this week, that the Sean Payton-led team, his ability to get these guys right and get them going, some of the veteran leadership, that it puts them in position to win this football game. Because I know they're going on the road and the Chargers have a lot of talent, but the Broncos should win this football game.
Yeah. Like their pass defense is not very good. So it's kind of like it's sort of similar to last week a little bit heading into that Houston game where we're like, okay, are they going to change how they play based off of the matchup, or are they just going to say it doesn't matter, we're going to go in there and rock and roll?
Right.
So it will be interesting to see how they attack this team, just because their pass defense statistically isn't great. Still have Derwin James, and they still have Mac coming off the edge. So, like, to me, let's just throw those stats out, if you ask me. Like, I'd still just go try to play Broncos football.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something to, you've got to be able to be who you are.
Yeah.
And listen, even as the Broncos were running the ball against Cleveland, they still took shots down the field, right?
Yeah.
It's not like that element of your game.
The play action is huge. You mentioned that.
Play action, Cortland Sutton against Cleveland had a wide open one. He drew a pass interference. There were some other big plays in that game, but they controlled that game.
Yeah.
And I have confidence that Sean Payton has built this team to a point where they're able to shake off a loss. And that as much as anything, it shows a good team, right? Your ability to quickly
bounce back,
to get rid of that and not let it fester and stick around. So I'm hopeful that'll happen. And listen, if you get this one, Phil, you at least guarantee that entering the final stretch of the season, you're in it. Because
most definitely,
if you get this game, even if you aren't able to upset Detroit on the road, you're sitting at worst 7-7, and then you've got New England at home, the Chargers at home, and then the Raiders on the road, and you feel like, hey, you might have to win out, but we've at least got a chance here of doing this. And you put yourself in position to play meaningful football. That's why this week is so big, is because it guarantees that those final 3 games are going to matter.
And the Broncos, those games you just mentioned, only one of those teams, the Lions, have a winning record right now. Right. So you do think the Broncos are sort of in a good spot now for this final stretch, considering what their schedule looks like.
But they got to do it.
They got to go do it.
And Broncos have had success against good teams. They obviously went and beat Buffalo, who I think is a talented team, even though they're 6-6 right now. They beat the Chiefs at home. The
Bills and Chargers, actually, this is a good sort of teams that had huge aspirations, but their record does not reflect the talent.
Right. I think the Bills scare me a little bit more, especially the road atmosphere there in Buffalo. But, yeah, if you can find a way to get this win and you're looking down the stretch at 2 home games and then, man, if someone at 1-5 would have said you can go to Vegas and if you win, you got a great shot of being in the postseason, you would have signed up for that immediately.
Of course you would have.
And let's not just write off their chances of going to Detroit. We've seen them.
Of course, they win big games. Yeah,
but this one's big just because it at the very least guarantees you that the end of the season is going to matter.
Some people are calling this already the end of the season. Like this final 5-game stretch is sort of
right.
This is the home stretch.
Right. But I
December football.
I would feel really confident about the ability to win home games against the Patriots the way they're playing right now and beat the Chargers at home. Yeah. And so, man, can you get this one and then almost like make sure that week 18 matters? Yeah. I mean, it's still a month away, right? But
you love the schedule.
I do. I love it so much.
The team, they probably don't even know who they play after this week.
I think they probably know.
They're just so locked in. All they know is Chargers.
Maybe.
Yeah. Possible. I think that's what I sort of think that's how they operate.
I will say this, Phil. I think we're getting close to the part of the season where you got to start rooting for other teams.
Oh, yeah. Steelers, probably you want them to lose.
Steelers are perhaps the one team that the Broncos need to lose more than anybody.
I think that there's some good matchups this week, though, for the Broncos, right? What, Jags and...
well, the Jags play in Cleveland, and Trevor Lawrence may not play. So that, unfortunately, looks like Cleveland could win that, which is not great for Denver.
Indy plays somebody, too.
They do indeed play a football game.
Who does tell me?
The Steelers, today's Thursday as we're recording this, the Steelers host New England. I don't think there's a great chance that New England goes out there and pulls it off, but it would be.
That is on Thursday night, yeah.
It would be a huge help for the Broncos. So root for the Patriots tonight.
Colts Bengals.
You want to root for the Colts Bengals. You want to root for the Bengals, I think, to win that football game.
The Bengals are they're also 6-6, but without Jimmy Burrow.
I think the way the Bengals schedule shapes up, they're probably going to drop at least one more. And the Colts right now are 7-5, so you need them to lose. So root for the Bengals, root for the Patriots, root for the Jaguars
and Browns.
You probably want to root for the Jets against the Texans.
Of course.
I don't know if you can stomach that.
Is Rodgers playing this week or no?
I don't know. He's practicing. So
Bills Chiefs Sunday night or Sunday afternoon. Same time.
You want the Chiefs to win that.
I think you do want the Chiefs.
Because the Bills need to get to – if the Bills lose one more, then the Broncos are in great shape there because they got the head-to-head tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So
a lot of teams right there.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of teams right in the mix there. So
and there's going to be a team that you think, hey, there's no way X team loses to them, and they slip up, and that's it. That can end a season. That's why these games are so important. The Broncos can't have that slip the way they started their season.
Yeah.
So makes every game
lock in.
Yeah, every possession, every quarter critical.
It's sort of fun to think about. Hey, we need this to happen. We need this to happen. Haven't talked about that in a while.
No, been a couple of years, and this would, if the Broncos win on Sunday, would match their best record like this late in the season.
7-6, yeah,
since 2016.
Yeah, well, then weren't they 7-6 again with the?
Sorry, you're since 2021, but if you were to if they were to have a winning record later in the year after that, then you're starting to get into territory that you haven't seen since 2016.
Yeah.
So we haven't had these conversations in a while.
Yeah. It's nice to have other games matter,
Definitely.
Not just for, fantasy or whatever. They matter for the Broncos.
For real life.
IRL.
That's right.
Eric, any shout-outs that you'd like to get to this week? Any shout-outs?
Wow. Shout-out Liz Gerald's.
Of course, community
team.
Doing some nice work out there. It's the holiday season. They got to get the work out there.
There's a children's hospital visit in recent days. Nice to see some Broncos players over there.
Yep.
It was Colorado Gives Day.
Ooh.
Some nice opportunity to give back to your favorite charities.
Yeah. And, of course, last week was the My Cause, My Cleats.
That's right.
It's nice to see all the players and guys supporting their causes.
We did a couple features on Marvin Mims and Mike McGlinchey. Check those out.
DenverBroncos.com.
Plug.
Yeah.
Any other shout-outs, Phil?
I will shout out our dear friend Ike. He's had a lot of success on the basketball court against me in particular recently.
Like one-on-one?
No, that would never happen. But his teams against my teams.
Oh, what teams are we talking about?
CSU Rams beat my Buffs.
Our state.
Just makes me just so upset. Yeah. And then on Wednesday night this week, his Clippers knocked off my Nuggets.
The Nuggets, they're allowed to lose?
I was as shocked as you are.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think the Nuggets are sort of working through some things right now. Lineup changes a lot, with some injuries and stuff like that. So they'll hit the ground running pretty soon here. I have confidence.
That's okay.
Yeah. Once you've been and won a ship, it's ship, not chip.
Yep.
If you ask me personally, I'm very
passionate.
I have a lot of passion about this. Well, I think you have a confidence that things will just click back in. It's kind of like what we're talking about with the Broncos. Is like when you haven't done it, it's hard. What is it? Sean always says is like doing it. Yeah, you get that confidence.
I don't think that's
by doing it.
He says confidence is born from demonstrated ability.
That's what it was.
Not that doing it.
Just exactly.
Yeah, doing it's good.
You got to do it. You got to show it, and then you get the confidence. I think he says that.
Is that how he says it?
I've heard him say something very similar to that. Very similar.
Oh, and we should also, Phil, shout out Garrett Bowles.
Oh, yes, the Walter Payton Man of the Year.
That's right. A well-deserved honor
GB
for
zone.
Garrett. He has done a lot of work with juvenile detention centers and then some of the youth there.
Cause that's very close to his heart.
That's right. And congrats to Garrett. Obviously, one of the biggest honors in the NFL to be the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for your team.
And Sean Payton said this week that sometimes on Saturdays they have like a Make-A-Wish kid come out to practice and hang out. And Garrett is usually the last player on the field hanging out in those situations. So good for Mr. Bowles.
Yeah. Congrats to Garrett and his family.
And Bowles has been playing a lot better football this year.
Yeah.
So it's off the field success, on the field success. It's been a good year.
Yeah, I'm sure these guys like Garrett, Cortland, Justin, who have just for so long lost. I think it was after the Chiefs game where Garrett was like, we've sucked my entire career, is that what he said, or we've lost my
despondent.
Yeah. It's nice for these guys to have something to be happy about. And I would try not to get my hopes up too much, Phil, but it'd be really nice to just end this playoff streak and see these guys get a chance to play a real playoff game.
Yeah.
And we talk sometimes, we're like, this is like a playoff game. I want to play a real playoff game.
Yeah, that is true.
But you got to be patient.
That's true. And you got to stay locked in.
It's a virtue.
This is an important time. Yeah. It's winning time.
You can't skip the process.
That's true. Do you trust the process?
No, I don't think that's
really
good, right?
That. That's not good.
It hasn't worked.
You don't want to trust it. You want to just do it.
Maybe you got a fake MVP.
Do the process. Oh, now you're talking about language. Now you're talking about language. All right, well, we'll see what happens this week. We'll be back on Monday. We'll break it down.
If we win, Ben Swanson will definitely not be here.
He will definitely not be back.
No.
So, sorry, Ben. Before we started recording, we said that it was kind of like the start of Batman. The last one, The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, yeah.
When Bane.
You have to have seen the first one for that to
make
make
sense? You have to have seen all of them.
Okay, got it.
Up to that, yeah. But, they're on that airplane.
The Jack Nicholson one?
You have to see those too, yeah.
Yeah.
I like those ones. Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like my childhood.
Michael Burton?
No.
Oh.
Different guy.
Got it.
Different guy. When I see him on the field, I'm like, it's 3rd and 1. I was like, he's getting the ball.
That was a good play.
That was a good play. The direct handoff to the fullback.
That worked, didn't it?
That did work.
So it must not have been a third down.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was second and 1. Yeah, that's true.
Couldn't have been a third down.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have not gotten it on second and 1. Boom, run that on 3rd and 1.
Oh, just to get that confidence.
Like they did have, anyway. They moved it some. They just did it on early downs.
Yeah. They were good on 1st and 2nd. Yeah. See what happens. So, but it was like that when Bane was, they're going to get out of the airplane that's crashing. And then he's like, sorry.
They expect 2 of us in the wreckage.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be very painful for you. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. For Aric DiLalla, I am Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.